Good morning, CLC. Welcome. We're happy to have you guys here today. We hope everyone is having a wonderful week and a wonderful day. And with that, thank you for joining us. We want to start everyone off on a positive note. So if you feel so inclined, I invite you to take a few deep breaths. Relax in this moment, in your chair or bed or wherever you may be at this time. Put your day and your week aside. Pull your mind in from your past. Pull your mind in from your present and your future. Allow yourself to just be here. Now, there is one life, one love, one source of all wisdom and guidance. It is in the midst of me, just as it is in the midst of each and every one of you, sensitive and responsive to your every thought, your every word, your every action. Knowing that universal source is there for us, guiding us, loving us. I am so deeply grateful. I release this word back into universal consciousness, knowing it is done. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin the inner healing process, I invite you now to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your right hand, and let my words act as your own for your own inner healing, acceptance, receptivity. I acknowledge there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging the higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of the infinite presence, I simply speak these words. I surrender.
I surrender.
Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only constructive, positive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose.
I choose.
I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. visualizing the idea as already acted upon and brought to pass. In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words: I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace and fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release.
I release.
Now in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. It could be a family member, a friend, a teacher, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who's not physically present in the room, but I turn to that image in my mind and I say, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Now I invite you to open your eyes to the world, turn joyfully to anyone who may be around you or in your mind's eye, and share gratitude and confidence by saying, I'm grateful for the good in your life. And we are grateful for the good in your life.
You did get a comment about remember when we used to call Palm Sunday Hawaiian Shirt Day.
Yes. Yes, we may do that again sometime. And Easter was Hat Day, meaning no disrespect, meaning all respect, all honor, and all praise be given. Thank you for tuning in to Creative Life Spiritual Center on this Sunday morning at 11 a.m. Central Daylight Time. Throughout our region, there are churches and centers having services at this hour, and the fact that you've chosen to be with us is a privilege and an honor and a responsibility. So what I'm going to be talking about, I'm Jesse Jennings, by the way, and that was Danielle Mercadel, who is a licensed practitioner and also our board president at Creative Life that you just heard do the beautiful opening meditation and the inner healing experience. And then Reverend Lisa Ryan will be following me up here for our closing in a little bit. Jeffrey Oshman, our music director, is here. There are only 4 of us in this room, and everybody else is dressed as a maroon chair today. So we're bringing to you virtual service from Creative Life, and we will do this for the duration until we can all gather together again in one big happy circle and sing these songs. Soon, Jeffrey says, soon, so that we can all sing together in harmony like we love to do. And what I'm talking about this month, the 4 talk titles, the 4 talk themes are drawn from the Gospel of John because it is a sacred season. Today is Palm Sunday, as Lisa pointed out. It's the time of Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem. And we will look at this today. Wednesday night at sunset will be the beginning of Passover. Next Sunday, of course, is Easter. All of these things have some bearing on you or me, regardless of our religious affiliation. It's just as you've heard, there's anxiety in the air. There's trouble in the air, and there's fear. Well, so there is Christ in the air, and so there is Moses in the air, and Abraham, and all of the patriarchs and matriarchs, and all of their wisdom, and all of their empowerment. It's in the air as well, if we can draw from it. And that's what Jesus meant when he said about the light, to believe in the light. He comes into Jerusalem, and he is speaking to the disciples and an assembled crowd who are honoring him. And he says, and if I be lifted up from the earth, I lift all men unto me. He's speaking about himself and his own spiritual dimension, and then he puts it out to the group. He says, believe in the light. Believe in the light so that you might become children of the light. Believe in the light. What is the light? That's what we're going to look at through this month. And why we're looking at it through the dimension, through the lens, the historical lens and the philosophical lens of Jesus is an interesting question, because we are a New Thought spiritual center. We honor all faith traditions, and if you could see, if we had a movable camera, you'd see down the wall here, we have banners representing the major faith traditions of the world. So why are we talking about Jesus? Well, I just got through teaching a course on the history of New Thought, and I'm getting ready to do 2 more. And when you read Ernest Holmes, the founder of religious science, and you read Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, the co-founders of Unity, and their teachers, Emma Curtis Hopkins, and her teacher, Mary Baker Eddy, and Phineas Parkhurst Quimby, who was an influence in Mary Baker Eddy's life, and all the other writers of the 20th century, the 19th century, back to Swedenborg, back to Meister Eckhart, back into European antiquity, let's say, since the time of Christ. You ask any one of these individuals, who is the greatest practitioner of spiritual science that you know? And they all turn to Jesus. Every one of them mentions him. Our own Reverend Arthur Johnson calls him the mastermind scientist. So when I'm wanting to do something, I'm looking for an expert. I know very little about social media, but Reverend Lisa and Danielle do. So I'm looking for an expert. If I want to know something about music, I'm going to go to Jeffrey over here. I seek out experts. We're taught today to look for experts in terms of the scientific questions concerning the current epidemic, the current pandemic. Look for the experts, look for the people who have the chops, who have the wisdom, who have the science, who have the education back of them. You look for an expert. So if you want an expert in the science mind, look hard at Jesus. Look at his teaching, less than at his singularity. Because in this teaching, we believe that he came to teach. He didn't just come to present something into the world that if we believe in it vicariously, that it's going to relieve us of all obligation to make our own choices, live our own lives, and shape our own destiny. Instead, we believe he came and offered us specific tools for living. Love them as I have loved you. Forgive your enemies. Bless those who persecute you. You go to a modern psychologist today and you ask them for guidelines for living, they're going to give you something very similar to that. Without the religious connotations, but they're going to give you something very similar to that, about how to manage your feelings. You go to somebody, you go to a counselor, you say, I have enemies, they're going to try to work with you to forgive them. You go to a counselor, you say you have somebody who's persecuting you, or you feel persecuted generally by life, they're going to try to work you through that. They're not going to leave you there. They're going to use the science of Christ in their own way. We believe in what he taught, not because he taught it, but because it works. Because it absolutely works. And it's worked by everybody who has worked it down through the centuries. And it's available for us today. So when he says to us, believe in the light, what kind of light is he talking about? It's a light, I think, within. It's a light within that illumines the page in front of you. It's the light that casts light onto the current situation. We use the expression, let's look at this in the light of new discoveries. Let's look at this in the light of certain information. You cast the light. You have a light right here at the center of the self. And you cast it onto conditions. Believe in that. Believe in your power to do that. Believe in your power to transform the experience of conditions. I was talking about this with you last week and the week before, and ever since we had to change our dynamic here at Creative Life because of what's going on in the world. When I said that in this teaching and in this new thought movement overall, we're not engaged in establishing supernatural powers that others don't have. We are engaged in using fully the natural powers that everyone has. One of those natural powers is to cast a different light onto conditions based on your clear knowing. There's something more than that which meets the eye. Jesus was a proponent of non-physical reality. He didn't call it exactly that in the translations we had, but he believed in the primacy of non-physical reality. The back of the physical is the non-physical that is the cause. It's the causal dimension of everything that comes into the physical, which is why we say thoughts are things. They're things at another level of vibration. A thought is as real. A thought of a thing is as real as the thing that it will come to represent in the big picture, in the cosmic scheme. But you and I tend not to see things that way. We see things as things. We see things as solid and substantial. We say, well, this is provable, this is scientific, there's hard evidence for this, and so on. And we give less credence to our thoughts. That's not believing in the light. All things issue from the light. All forms issue from the light. So let's look at believing in the light, believing in the power that's back of physical reality to shape conditions. That's using our natural power. Maybe I can't make it not rain if I want it to not rain, but I can keep myself from getting wet. If I get wet, I can change my experience of wetness in my own mind and say, well, you know, this is working out better than I thought it would. I'm going to sing in the rain. I'm going to dance in the rain. I'm going to enjoy this. Some people call that surrender. Some people call that just sort of abject giving up. I call it mental health. Mental health. So I've been hearing from all sorts of people about the entertainments that they're creating for themselves while quarantined, while at home, with family. They're coming up with amazing things to do. And they're also bored, and they're also anxious, and they're also scared, and they're all of these things all at once. And the management of all of those feelings taken together is a situation of light. It's a situation of managing consciousness in such a way as you say all of this is leading somewhere. There was a meme that went up somewhere, and then it got reworked and it wound up on our Facebook page. There was a meme and it said something to the effect, I'm not working from memory here. If you don't use this time to create some great new work of art or to figure out a new side hustle for money, or you don't come up with some new body of knowledge, and it's not because you didn't have the time, it's because you lack the self-discipline. And I saw that in its original iteration, and then it went up again on our page, and that last line about you lack the self-discipline there was a red line through it. And we talked about this in our class yesterday because it sounds shaming, it sounds punitive, you know. If you don't do this and this and this. And so we talked about it from that standpoint. We all agreed there's no one right way to be, and everybody's under a lot of pressure, and you shouldn't be expected to come out of the house with a symphony written simply because you have nowhere else to go, and that about half of the people have somewhere else to go, and they have to be there with the same demand is placed on them as it was before any of this happened to show up at work. And now they have the added dimension of the anxiety they're feeling and their customers are feeling, and so on. So we talked about it. We said, well, we don't want to, that's true. You shouldn't shame anyone, and you shouldn't tell people what they ought to do at home and all. And then I was thinking about it. So that was yesterday in class, yesterday morning, and I was thinking about it up to now, and I realized, well, what you can do with a statement like that is split the difference. Because you are going to come out of the house with something new created. And you are going to come out of the house with a new side hustle, and you are going to come out of the house with some great new knowledge. And what you're creating might not look like King Lear. well, what you're creating will look like what it looks like. Because every day you're creating something. Whether you're busy or whether you're not, whether you're homebound or whether you're out, you're creating something. And if you turn your mind toward that, you turn your heart toward that, it will begin to take shape in a particular way. It will have volume and mass. It'll be something demonstrable. And you're always creating a side hustle, and I hate that expression, but I know what they mean by it. In other words, an income stream. You're always creating some new way to market yourself in the world for money or for what money can buy, which is sometimes not so much about the acquisition of money as the release of debt. One of the things that's happening right now is a lot of people are spending a lot less money on stuff they don't need. A lot of money's being saved. I drive my car now once a week. I drive my car once a week. You know where I drive to? Here. On Sunday morning to be with you to do this because we want to do it together as a group. This is great. Notwithstanding the fact the price of gas has dropped a great deal, I'm hardly putting any in it. A lot of expenses have gone away. That's a form of prosperity. That's a form of side hustle. So if you want to look at it that way, you're also thinking of ways to save money when you do shop. You're buying things, you're following sales and so on, and you're strategizing in terms of what you're going to cook in the long run for the family and so on. And then as far as knowledge, well, you can't help but acquire knowledge. And the biggest knowledge that we're getting right now as we go through this thing together is that we're going through this thing together. We've never been through anything like this. I've been on the planet a while. I've never been on, Jeffrey's been here a little longer, but we've never been through anything like this in our lives. We're in uncharted territory here. And future generations will look back and they'll say, well, those were the people in 2020 who went through that experience. The way we're looking back now at the people who went through 1918 and the flu pandemic and so on. And what did they do and what can we learn from them and so on. We're looking at a streamlining of society. We're looking at what they didn't have in 1918 was an ability to transfer everything into virtual expression, into online communication. We have that now. What's going to come of that? We don't know. But the light within us is the thing that we cast when we move the distractions aside and we look hard at things and we say, this is an experience that God is having in the world at this time by means of these qualities and conditions, just as I am an experience that God is having in the world at this time by means of me. This is all God. And this was the tough one for me to accept when I came into New Thought. It's the tough one for the students that I've had when they've come into New Thought. It was the tough one that the disciples had when they heard Jesus express it in his own terms that all there is God. All there is God. And here is either an acceptance of this or a denial of this, but if there's a denial of this, it's the experience that God is having by means of the denial of God's own reality. I know that sounds circuitous, but that's how it works out. Or like Octavio Paz, the poet, said, God inhabits the names that deny him. So when we say, I think this is all meaningless, I think this is the end of everything, and it's all coming apart at the seams, or we look for blame, to blame others, or we take blame on ourselves, or we live in anything less than the full body of the light. We are the experience that God is having by means of us doing that. Which is another way of saying there's no wrong way to do this. There are just more useful ways and less useful ways. You can go through this time in blame. You can go through it in panic. You can go through it in spiritual isolation as well as physical. And you're not sinning against nature, and you're not a less evolved person, and there's nothing wrong with you whatsoever. But I think you'll enjoy yourself less and take away less meaning from it than if you look at it in a different light. that you, if you be lifted up, lift all beings unto you. And this is the non-physical aspect of it. That right now, the four of us in this room, and those of you watching at home, by having a knowing together, I'm going to speak the word in treatment here in a moment. By us having this knowing together, we affect in ways that you cannot begin to predict, much less understand, much less even really control. We affect in ways the consciousness of the entire human species. And what an opportunity we have, as I said last week, because usually when we have had panic and trouble, in my life in ministry and in the life of this center, it's been local. It's been a flood. It's been a hurricane. It's been something up the street. And other people are sympathetic. And maybe they've had a similar experience at some time or another. And they know somebody here and their thoughts are turned in our direction. We use that expression a lot, but never before have we had an experience that every single human life on this planet is affected by. Never before have we had then such an opportunity to lift all of us up together, to lift all of us up, away from the noise, away from the news, away from the court of public opinion that changes from day to day, just as it changed for Jesus in the triumphal entry into Jerusalem, where he was met with hosannas and palm fronds, and within a week his fortunes turned entirely inside out. And he spoke of this when he talked about the opinions of men and the opinions of his Father. So we turn to the opinions of the Father. We turn to the opinion of Source that has never seen anything wrong, that only knows itself as the experience that it's having again by means of each one of us. And when we come to Passover, which begins Wednesday night, as I said, at sunset, we come to a time when a group of people who were in bondage found freedom, did not expect to find freedom, were liberated by an apparently supernatural act that was in fact natural, in that when people decide they must be free, then nature must shift to accommodate them and find that freedom. And that recognition of freedom is celebrated to this day, as it has been for almost 4,000 years. The idea that it would have been enough if just a tiny breach had been created in our enslavement, in our capture, that we could have squeezed through, and instead so much more was given. This bounty of life was given. And then next week, as we'll celebrate Easter, which is also about springtime, as is Passover in the Northern Hemisphere, these things originated. And as we look at Easter, we look at a time when the worst thing that could possibly happen, the most final thing that could possibly happen, called death, was overcome. How? By drawing from the non-physical into the physical, by speaking the word of light, by lifting up consciousness so that all might be lifted unto it. You might not ever come to accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. That's your privilege, your choice. But I strongly encourage you to consider his words as a personal salvation, his teaching, which is what our founder Ernest Holmes spoke of him being. And he said, ask, do you feel Jesus was the Savior? He said, absolutely I do. What did he mean? He meant when I use these words, I am saved. I'm saved from pain. I'm saved from sadness. I'm saved from helplessness and hopelessness, in the belief that there is a power, one power back of all creation, that I can use by the direction of my word. So stand strong, everybody out there. We're going to get through this. We are getting through this. And now I'm going to speak the word, and I'm going to talk about something that's never known any of this. And you go there a little bit now and then, and you bring back from it some of its magic and some of its power into the world. Let's know together there is one life, one presence, one reality, just one. And I can call it this, and I can call it that. And every name is contained within it. And every name contains it. For it is both subject and object. It is both cause and effect, both creator and creature. It is all there is. It is the body that I wear. It is the brain that I use. It is the word that I speak. It is the floor that I stand on. The earth that this building rides on. It is all of this. And it is not only that which is. It is that which is in potential. That which has not yet come to be. It is the afternoon of this day that I have not yet had. And the evening of this day, and the morning of the next day. It is everything that stretches into the future. Yet I know that I draw from my experience of the present moment and of the past. And I pack certain things up and carry them into my future. Today I choose what to pack. I choose wisely and well what to select in consciousness to carry into the next stage of my spiritual development in the next hour that comes. So I inventory my thoughts, feelings, attitudes, desires, motives, intentions, apprehensions, and everything else contained within consciousness. I inventory this with a searchlight, the light of which Jesus the Christ spoke. I believe in that light. I believe in it so much that I use it. I employ it. I pick it up and I shine that light into every corner of consciousness so that I might decide what travels with me into the next moment. And there are repetitive things and circular things and things that have basically just led nowhere that I leave behind. Blame is one of these. Self-recriminations, regrets, resentments. These have never done me any good. So I leave them where I find them. And then there's blessing, and then there's hope, and then there's inspiration and encouragement. And these things have been beneficial all along the way, not only from me outward, but coming toward me from the people in my life who've had supportive and wonderful things to say. And so, these are the things that I choose to pack in consciousness to take with me into the next moment. Therefore, I am empowered to follow the news to the degree that I wish to hear all the latest about things and be unmoved. And be unmoved in my commitment to seeing the highest and best. And where there is loss, where there is suffering, I can be fully present without associating my own self and my own destiny with it, and I can be fully present in witnessing the grief of others. And this renders me an agent of healing, which I've been all along without knowing it. Now I do know it. Now I take up my divine inheritance, and I follow the Christ idea out into the streets, virtually, if not actually, to heal the world. For this knowing, for this sweet morning together, for how this word travels and all that it accomplishes, and the fact that it does not return unto me void, but it prospers the thing whereto I send it. I am so deeply grateful. I release this word now, calling it done. I let it be so, and so it is.
Good morning, CLC. It is a little weird to be in this room with just four of us. We miss you. I definitely want you to know that we miss having you here. We are looking forward to, as we've been calling it, till we meet again, which will be soon in the epic of history. It'll be soon. So we're coming to giving time, and we want you to know we understand. There's a lot of you have the opportunity to work from home. Some of us are still working in our jobs because we're in those essential industries. And for those of you who are not working, know that we're with you. If you go to creativelife.org, that's our website, down on the bottom, is it the right or the left of the page? Not that I know my right from my left. There is a PayPal link if you would like to, so that you can donate to us. It's on the left, okay. I'm a little dyslexic, and so my right and my left can be a bit of a challenge. So if you go, like I said, creativelife.org, our website, there is a PayPal link. We'll see if we can get it up on the Facebook page. Okay, she did. I was watching Daniel trying to figure out how to post it in the links. So it's also in the links, in the comments of this, so you can go to that. We do have a new mailing address as well if you want to do snail mail. That is pinned to the top of our Facebook page. I'm sure it's also on the website. So we have multiple ways to do this. And so join me now in saying, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is. All right. Well, it has been a pleasure serving you in this virtual way, although we are definitely looking forward to when you come back. So we're going to close this out in the way that we start, as always, with treatment or affirmative prayer, whatever your terminology is. So I invite you, if you are comfortable, to close your eyes and know with me, see with me the light from within, that beautiful light that shines from that heart space. See it as it fills your heart. See it as it overflows your heart. See it as it spills out through every possible way. It spills out through your hands as you are in service. It spills out through your eyes as you are looking at beauty, so that you can see the beauty. It spills out through your ears as you're hearing the beautiful music that Jeffrey has provided for us today. It spills out through your mouth as you speak to one another, so that you speak in love and that light comes through you. You are children of God. We are all children of God. That light is our birthright. I see that light in you, and you see that light in every face that you see. As you move through this week, I am knowing that you move through with ease, that you move through with clarity, that you move through with peace. And as we do what we need to do so that we can move back into some new normal and be with each other again, I know that you are safe and that you are loved. Spirit is with you. Spirit is with us all. And I'm grateful to know this. I'm grateful to see this. I'm grateful to be this. And I'm grateful to be in service to you in this way. So till we meet again, I am grateful for you. And so it is.